All right, everyone. Welcome to the post-lunch panel on collaboration. Just real quick, who here flew in or came in from another state? Okay, there's a good amount of you. How many of you guys are local? All right, fantastic. All right, I flew in last night. And for those of you who came in the last day or so, you probably experienced this at the airport. You get caught up in your phone going down the rabbit trail of doom, of nonsense, useless information. And that's where I found myself yesterday. But I did come across this really interesting article right before we boarded the plane. And it was about retention, about the information that we remember. And I thought it was fascinating. And one of the statistics stated that if the energy is low, within 2 weeks, you will only retain up to 10% of what you learned. Has anyone ever heard that stat before? I thought that was pretty mind-blowing. So in 2 weeks, if the energy is low, and I started thinking about high school, and I thought, yeah, that totally makes sense. But then the flip side of it was that when the energy is high, in 2 weeks, you will retain up to 90% of the information that's been shared. It's really quite interesting. It was in reference to what they call the cone of learning. So I want to do something a little different as we introduce our panel today, because we're all coming back after lunch. The energy might be a little low. So especially since a lot of us came in from other areas, I think that we all probably want to retain as much of the information today as possible, right? So if that's cool with you guys, if you guys are interested in doing something a little different with me, I would love for you guys to collaborate with me as we welcome our panel. And if we could get some music going on back there, Josh, if that's okay. Give me something that's like rock and roll. Yes. All right, everyone, stand up. Everybody up. Everybody up. Okay, no excuses. Clap, come on. All right. Our first panelist is a triple threat. He is a music supervisor, a seat agent, and a music library owner. Please welcome to the stage, Jody Freeman. Taking over. All right, our next panelist is from APM Music. Please welcome to the stage, Sarah Scarlata. Our third panelist, originating from across the Atlantic Ocean. He lives in Los Angeles now. Please welcome songwriter, composer, producer, Jake Warren. And finally, we have from Fox Entertainment, Selena Arizonovich. Woo! You've been all right. I know, it's totally different. Totally different. Y'all can take your seats if y'all want. Before you guys sit down, Josh, we can lower the music for a second. Awesome. Thanks, guys. I was going to say, before you sit down, stand up one more time. Stand up one more time. Stand up one more time. Yes, stand up one more time. Stand up one more time. Stand up one more time. Before you sit down, turn to someone, give them a fist pump. Tell them you're freaking awesome. Thank you guys for...
Yo. Check.
Check. Thank you for joining us on that. We wanted to do something different because this is all about collaboration. So thank you for collaborating with me on this. Before we start, just a quick gauge of the room. Who here is a songwriter, producer, or composer? Okay, awesome. Who here works on the publishing side as a music supervisor? You represent a music library, you're a sync agent? Okay, fantastic, okay. Well, we have a lot more composers than we do supervisors and sync agents and publishing people. So, Jake, I'm gonna throw the very first question your way as our resident composer, and that is, what are some of the common misconceptions that you've experienced that composers have when they're working with music supervisors and music libraries?
What's up, guys? How's it going? Great. Yeah. More of that.
There we go.
Awesome. That's a great question. So my initial thought on that is something I learned a while ago, which is clients want composers to succeed. They want to hire you for the job. They want us to do our best work. The misconception that I had was that they were looking for reasons to fire me from the job. But actually, when I really started to work closer with them, I realized they wanted me to win, even if it was working in a genre that was new to me or on a project where, for example, I had to deliver files in a way that I hadn't before. They wanted me to get it. They wanted me to succeed. They wanted me to do my best work. And when I realized that, I felt the pressure come off me, where I was able to really open up the channels of communication, where I was able to ask real honest questions that I wanted the answer to, rather than try and make it seem like I already knew. So it brought a lot more, it took away a lot of the friction and a lot of the way that clients end up coming back to you is when the process is frictionless. So there's nothing wrong with when you start with a new client to have those conversations and really ask those honest, open questions, because they're not only going to set you up to win on that project, but they'll set the whole frame of the relationship that could last for the duration of your whole career.
Awesome. Anyone want to add anything to that? Jody's a supervisor. Any perspective you have when you're working with composers and songwriters?
I mean, it's about communicating what we need exactly to the composers. And my job as a supervisor is to facilitate the creative translation that's coming from the directors. Usually, I've worked with directors that understand music, and I've worked with directors that don't. It's always nice to work with ones that do, because it makes it a lot easier to communicate exactly what's needed to our composers or our libraries or anybody we're working with. But when someone doesn't understand music, they're just a fan, and they're a producer, which usually means, I don't want to label all producers this, but like a suit, you know, they just are the money guys, and they could be like, you know, I love Rush, I'm a huge Rush fan. Great, I just got a great price on Rush. Cool, can you squeeze them down a bit? Like, it's too expensive. You know, so working with guys like that is less enjoyable than working with directors who understand music, and it leads to a better collaboration between us as supervisors and the end users who are providing us music.
Awesome. Selena, all the way at the end, I have a question for you. In what ways can technology be leveraged nowadays to enhance communication between everyone involved in a specific project?
Right. So, hi everybody. Yes, technology has a huge role in everyday processes, from communication, obviously, that is basically making us work, you know, faster, better, you know, just communicate more effectively, and then everything that goes into production side of things, right? Exchanging files, receiving music, being able to actually share it instantaneously with everybody who is involved, all the decision makers and all that sort of stuff. So in that sense, it's very difficult to imagine, you know, how we did things even like 10, 15 years ago, right? Also then, in terms of storing music, right? Tracking it, making everything available to all the PROs, all the people who, and all the companies that are involved in cue sheets and all that sort of stuff, right? The game has changed tremendously. And we, at least on Fox Entertainment side of things and in other music supervision projects, that's basically what it is. It is just a tool to get things done, to get it done faster, more efficiently, and all that kind of stuff. Nowadays, of course, there is all the talk about AI and all that kind of stuff. We don't lean into that when it comes to music. We still want people to make music and to have that creative input. If there is any use of AI at this moment, it is again just to enhance the processes, right? To make it more efficient, faster, to make the distribution easier, right? And that's pretty much it. But you know, when it comes to also working with composers, things have changed quite a bit on your guys' end. You know, how you make it, how you actually produce things. You know, whether there is a budget to hire live musicians or do everything out of the box, so to speak, and all that sort of stuff. So technology has its footprint on all of this, and that's basically what we lean on it for. You know.
So I have a question kind of based off of what you just said, and we'll get to a question for you, Sarah, in a second, but do you feel, this is open for anyone, by the way, do you feel that the advancements in technology, which have sped things up tremendously over the last, I mean, I've been in this industry for 20 years, do you feel that those advancements have also led to a lot of overwhelm because there's an expectation for there to be more completed in a shorter amount of time than what we had even 15, 20 years ago when we were still sending out CDs via the mail in the manila envelopes?
Expectation is definitely different. Definitely different. So expectation in terms of the schedule, right? Can you do it in 3 minutes? You don't need 3 weeks, you know, kind of a thing. But also the way that again, communication is tied into creative process, right? So the fact that somebody can actually turn things around or somebody meaning a composer, songwriter, producer, music producer, whoever you're talking to, can actually turn things around much quicker than ever before. And if you are a creative decision maker for the film, series, video game, studio, whatever, you know, that you can almost instantly, you know, have an idea of what it's going to be like. That's tremendous progress, definitely.
Sarah, we've known each other for what, 14 years or so, I guess, and yeah. You're a catalog rock star, one of my favorite people in the world.
Right back at you.
What strategies, in your experience, have been most effective in aligning the catalog, various content in the catalog with various content or say music supervisors' needs, various creative individuals' needs, especially over the last, gosh, we've experienced such a tremendous change over the last 12, 13, 14 years in this industry.
Oh yeah, it's always a moving target, by the way. So right when you think that you have a handle on what's like currently popular, it's going to change. And I think that honestly, as composers and as library owners, it's important to stay on top of changes, to not just be reactive, but to be proactive and to kind of be paying attention to what's happening and watching TV and kind of noticing the trends that are happening also in the Billboard charts. But as someone who works at a catalog and pitches music, definitely listening and paying attention to what the client needs are. And really making sure that we have the amount of content to where you're not pitching the same material over and over, you know? So if there's ever a new trend that maybe there isn't enough material in our opinion, we'll always communicate with the libraries Definitely, because we really rely on them to keep up with all that. If there's a new style of music, we'll request it from a library that excels in that sort of music as well. But I'm constantly impressed by the amount of composers and libraries really keeping up with trends and really kind of fueling these trends too. Because as a music director, it's almost like we're like the new DJs. It's like you're pitching stuff. Maybe that might be a little outside the brief, but maybe is a little new and has a cool, different sound. And we're always hoping that people like Selena will license it, or Jody. But yeah, I mean, definitely, if there's ever a hole in the catalog, we always fill it as quickly as we can. But again, I think that as composers and library owners, being proactive and being innovative is always awesome. So
Is there any specific trends that you guys are each individually seeing in your specific roles that you can share with composers who are looking to get ahead of the next trend, looking to stay on top of it?
I mean, I think that that's a tricky question, for me anyway, because the project I'm on is very project specific, so they're not always following the trends. On the other side of it, when I'm pitching to supervisors, I have to stay on top of the trends, and that's usually what commercials want. They want the most trendy, cool, hip stuff. They don't really lean into, sometimes they go retro, but they don't really lean into, I don't know what to call it, stock music or at least American commercials. I think you guys probably know better than I would, but some European agencies could be different. But I'm speaking specifically about Hollywood and the sync industry here. So staying on top of trends is important, but I wouldn't get too caught up in it as a composer. I think you guys should be doing what you do best. Being innovative, I think, is brilliant. Be innovative on top of what you do best and create your own trend. That's where the key is for getting attention, because when we receive so much music, and we hear the same stuff over and over again as a supervisor, and Selena, probably you as well, what stands out is that innovation. I think that was a great description there.
For sure. I would definitely agree with that. For a hot moment there, it also seemed that following trends will get you hired. It will get you hired repeatedly and all that sort of stuff. But now the music, as it always has actually historically, always follows social trends, right? So the fact that we are focused more on social issues nowadays, that we are focused more on the individual, and those things go up and down, of course, as every trend does, but having an individual voice and being your own champion, your own best champion of it, is definitely something that projects a lot farther than following any trend.
If you were to give a composer, a songwriter, any music creator advice as far as efficiently communicating with everyone in the circle, whether it's music supervisor, music library reps, sync agents, whatever, to keep that communication loop efficient so that they're not wasting time going down roads that aren't going to lead anywhere, what would your advice be to composers on how to keep that feedback loop efficient and keep it open with whoever they're working with, whether it's a supervisor, a music library rep, or a sync agent?
I would start with just listening. I mean, it sounds silly, but if we're most of us are musicians, right? Raise your hand if you're a musician. Yeah. So we're gifted with these ears, so listening with our ears to what they need exactly and trying not to deviate from what that is. I would start there.
Yeah, I mean, working at a library, a lot of times, we get relationships with our libraries over time, obviously. So a lot of times I'll just, people will come to mind. If there's a request that maybe I think that there's a hole in the catalog, I'll just hit somebody up and be like, hey, I think that your library would be great for XYZ. I think that you guys should consider doing an album that's but I think it's all about the relationships and feeling comfortable. And the fact that we have so many lines of communication, we have text, we have Slack, we have email. I take 2 minutes out of my day, and we work with like people that we know each other well enough to where it's a shorthand too, which is great. I mean, again, it's like just communicating in events like this. I love the PMC because I see everybody, and you get to know people over the years, and you get to know like what you're saying, playing to people's strengths. Like I think that you would nail this style, and it's coming around, and let's all like be successful together. It's like, because like to your point, we all want to win. we're all on the same team, and we want each other to succeed. So it's just having that shorthand in that relationship with the person.
So basically, authenticity, staying in their lane of what they do best, authentic to them, not trying to chase after something, but...
Yeah. So a lot of times I love it when people, like I know what people do really well, or like things that get them excited. Like I always like knowing what kind of music is inherent to whoever it is, like maybe they grew up in a different country and they love a different style of music that maybe, so just knowing the people personally, you're like, oh, this person will love that project. So you want people to be excited with you, because music's fun. I mean, we should all be enjoying ourselves, and I would never want to put a task on somebody, if you know what I mean. Something that's a chore, like I don't want to write that, So, I mean, just about getting to know everybody and knowing where their joy lies with their creativity.
Jake, what about you? How do you keep that relationship up with the various people who you work with in your circle?
For me, the conversations more and more come back to it is about following your highest excitement of the music. So I'll make something which is really exciting to me, and I can be as wild and creative and as much of an artist as I want to be. But then when it comes to talking about the music, it's like I shift gears, and then I'm able to have a much more objective conversation with them and really speak to them almost as if we're talking about someone else who made the music. It's not me and my music, it's the music. So I take myself outside of it, and then when I'm able to talk to them, I'm able to really start to understand how they hear it. So as we know as composers, when you write and produce and mix and master your own stuff, you have to wear different hats. But then the hats continue, because when you speak to people that run libraries or music supervisors or editors, you have to think how they all think. And they can only get into our brain as much as they're able to, because they're limited by their musical abilities, which is fine. But for us, we don't want our musical abilities to limit us and say, well, I'm the creative, I'm the artist. You don't know what you're talking about. You never want to have that attitude. They do know what they're talking about. They're experts in their field. We have to be the bridge, essentially. And the music is the bridge. So the way I do it now is I put everything I can into a track, into a song. I stand 100% by it. I think it's the best thing anyone has ever made, which should be the attitude every time you write something. But then when I send it off, I'm then able to completely distance myself from it and say, whatever they say, I'm going to really genuinely find out why they're saying that. Why do they say that? Why are they responding to my music in that way? What are their notes? And if they don't have notes, I'll still have some notes of my own, because I'm always curious about how can the next song be better than the next and the next and the next. And that's, I think, how you can have these great relationships with people on the other side, because they know you're passionate about what you do. They know that their opinion and perspective is influencing your process. And that is how the music gets better, and you're able to have, hopefully, a very long-term career. Like, that's ultimately what it's about. These people, as they get to know you and they go on the journey with you, they're not formally A&Ring you, but you're going through that process together. And I've been doing this for many, many years, and as my music changes, I feel like it's becoming more authentic. I'm more able to be confident in my decisions and innovate, because these clients have been clients of mine for years, and I give myself the permission now to be bold, to make creative production decisions that I might not have made if it was a brand new client, or if I felt like their opinion was gonna stray me from the goal. Like you said, the goal is always for everyone to win, and that, in my opinion, comes down to the music. It always comes back to the music. It's about making the music as good as it can possibly be.
I think that there's, I love that answer. I think that there's a lot of noise for all of us. There's a lot of excitement surrounding getting those placements, and I think that can be a big distraction. while that's the goal, and that takes away from, being grounded in who you are and what you do best. So I want to do a little test real quick, if that's okay. Would that be okay if I did a little test with you guys? You guys okay with that? How many of you, if I said I have a brief right now and I need music, I need country music. I need country music, it pays $20,000. Raise your hand if you could get me something. Wow, that's a lot of you. Now, no, keep your hands up, keep your hands up, keep your hands up. Now, of those people who raise their hands, how many of you listen to country music? Keep your hand up. Okay, some of you are like, some of you went down. So if you listen to country music, your hands up, that's great. This happens a lot I find this happens a lot with composers and producers. They get excited about the placement. Yeah, sure, I got country music, or sure, my catalog doesn't have a lot of hip hop. I have some. I listen to some hip hop. I'm not steeped into hip hop, so I have my go-to catalogs for hip hop. You do what you do best and what you're passionate about, and I think that the rest falls into place.
So a lot of people in our community, they're always, I don't want to use the word nervous. I can't think of the right word at the moment. Hesitant? Maybe hesitant is the word. A lot of musicians, I feel, tend to be hesitant to reach out to decision makers for fear of rejection. Obviously, a lot of people pursue the traditional music path. Favorite word in the traditional music path is no, right? But in the licensing sphere, I feel like it's been the opposite in my experience. But I would love to know from your perspective, as someone who's worked at, amassing catalogs from independent musicians, what is your experience when independent musicians first reach out to you, or maybe some of your coworkers and whatnot, and what would be the best way to open that door? Because that's what I feel a lot of musicians have a big struggle with is getting their foot in the door. It's that fear of the door slamming on them before they've even gotten their foot in it, right?
Well, I think with the dawn of social media, this is the first time in history where musicians have to actually promote themselves in a way that is usually not comfortable for most musicians. I'm a drummer, so I loved it when the lights weren't on me and I was in the back and I could just play and people had no idea who I was. So now we're in an era where you have to self-promote so heavily, and it's not always comfortable for everybody. I always keep this in mind because even when I started out and I was trying to book gigs for my bands, I would stutter and I'd be all nervous on the phone to a booking agent. And I always was hoping someone would take mercy on me because I was terrible at it. So when people were nice, I was so shocked. I'm like, oh, this person, right? And so when anyone reaches out to me, I'm always I always remind myself that I've been on the other side of that email plenty of times, as a musician, even as just pitching to music supervisors. So I always like to allow people a lot of grace. I think in this industry, we all should allow each other a lot of grace because we're all doing the best we can. And especially, like I said, in social media, being on the camera is not always my most comfortable place to be. But I know that everyone who reaches out to me believes in their music, and I think that that's so important. That's number one. You should always believe in your music. I think the best way to do it is to just be yourself. And, I can always tell when there's a heavy sales pitch, and I know that sometimes that comes from a place of maybe not knowing, or maybe thinking that this will work for the most amount of people. I kind of like it when it's not salesy and when it's just someone's like, I wrote this song I'm excited about. Because that to me resonates personally. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I kind of like it when it's more real, because then I can relate to that person. Because again, I've been that person. I think all of us have been that person. We've all been on the other side of it too. So I just like authenticity. And and even if I can't help that person, or it's a style that we don't need or whatever, we have a landing page on APM has a landing page, so I'll always send them the landing page. Sometimes we're too busy, and again, if someone doesn't reply to you, I would never take it personally. It's one of those things where sometimes people are just too busy to even listen. So I wouldn't take things as rejections, because rejection is a strong word. Rejection means that someone didn't like it, right? But so I think there's different levels of what could be considered rejection. So I think that always believe in yourself and always be authentic. I think that resonates, especially with me.
Let's dive into that a little bit more, because the whole process of what we do is we are ultimately serving a TV show, a film, commercial, some form of visual media, right? And rejection is a topic that obviously scares a lot of folks. But can we dive into more of rejection versus the song just not working for the scene? How do we make songs work for the scene? How do we deal with it when the song doesn't work for the scene? You obviously put music to picture a lot. You hear great songs from well-known artists against scenes that don't work.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes, music will bend a picture, but picture won't bend to music. So, we can edit songs in a way to make it work if the vibe is right, if it feels right in the scene. And in your head, you can try to envision it. And that's what I think most libraries and sync agents do when they get briefs, is we're doing our best based on the briefs that we're given. You guys probably see a lot of briefs, too, to envision the scene and pitch your best music for that scene. But sometimes it just doesn't work. And you've got to say, hey, thanks, or there's no time to say thanks, but we're going to pass. It's usually just the answer's no. And we all have really, I think from being young kids, we all have a visceral reaction to the word no. Nobody likes the word no. But when you hear yes, yay, but it's no isn't always a bad thing. It's just didn't work.
How does that look? I'm sorry, Sarah. How does that look like from the catalog perspective, when songs don't necessarily work for the catalog?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's kind of like catalogs always have kind of a direction they're going in, and sometimes they change directions and you're not aware of it. So it could feel like, oh, my music is perfect for this catalog. Well, maybe they're evolving into something else. Like, you never know. And honestly, from a music director standpoint, I wanted to add to something what you said I thought was interesting, is that the pictures where I think I'm nailing it are the ones that I usually don't get, because we don't have the luxury of seeing the picture, music directors. And I'm sure a lot of composers, there's so many safeguards in place for studios, they don't want anything to leak. So you don't see what you're pitching to. So you may think in your head it's perfect, but then when you see it like, when I actually see the show or whatever, I'm like, oh, I get why that playlist didn't work, And a lot of times it's just like, descriptors or whatever you're at the mercy of, from the music supervisor.
Yeah, there's good briefs and there's bad briefs. Some have more descriptors, some just say, I want fun, feel-good pop.
Yeah.
But, what does that mean? Fun, feel-good pop. Anybody know what that is? There's a lot of fun, feel-good pop out there.
Right. And so, a lot of times, again, it's like not everything's going to work for every scene. So it's just like, that's why just having like a lot of material and just writing from the heart, something will work eventually, right?
How often do you, Jake and Selena, how often do you guys actually see picture and music, or are you guys just working off of briefs? What does it look like for you?
I probably see it before Jake does. But I would say fairly often, Usually, if we are out on a search, we're not working completely blind. At least we see the scene, we see some script pages, we know the synopsis of it all. Usually we have some sort of a background on what is wanted, what if production company or directors, showrunners, and so on have actually gone down a certain path, right? And it has not worked out, or if they have gone down a certain path and it was almost there but not really, or if they have gone down a certain path and they're like, we want to see what all is out there, kind of a thing, and what more can we possibly get. Then of course there are budgets of it all. So we do see it fairly often, but to tie in to what was talked about earlier, when we actually come to the point of talking to composers, talking to songwriters, and so on, typically we have already vetted out a good number of people that either an individual had in mind, or a group of people had in mind, or we knew that whoever were decision makers kind of considered, but kind of deflected from talking to and all that kind of stuff. So if there is a handful of people, which there usually is for a show or a film or animated series or a theme for a show, right? If we are going out to a handful of people, it's a valuable time, right? And we have already kind of thought about who might be good for something, whose style we've heard, or maybe even not, but have heard of, and all that sort of stuff. And I think that nervousness that you were talking about and all that kind of stuff goes both ways a little bit, right? We want to hear what people bring to the table. We want to, hear the questions, see what their instincts are, just given what they know or what we share with them at the moment of that conversation and all that sort of stuff. So those are all valuable little flags, right, that do not get unnoticed. And for that reason, it's kind of a two-way street, right? Some people bring to the table exactly kind of spot on what is needed. And some people that you think would be absolutely amazing for something kind of take you to a completely different tangent, you know what I mean? And while the idea might be good, you have already talked to a bunch of people either on production side, producers, showrunners, and whoever decision makers might be, and you know what they're after, you know their taste, or you've seen footage and you know what is needed, right? And sometimes somebody just basically, sticks with their guns and just basically gives you a whole new idea, whole new perspective, and brings to the table, a wealthy piece of information, musical information that, all of a sudden you're so super excited to share with everybody else. So every situation is a little bit different, and I think that for most of us who have been in the game for a long time, to be honest, that's what keeps us interested, right? If it was a push of a button kind of a job, I don't know that we would still be here, but it's always something new, it's always something different, and definitely in these kind of situations, you see a person, you see kind of which kind of a experience, musical experience, life experience, understanding of either a comedy or a drama or whatever that is, on which level they're actually related to it, right? So all of that kind of plays a part.
Jake, anything to add?
Sure. So for me, I'm basically shooting in the dark every time. So what I have is, I had one recently to give a quick case study, and there was, here are the past 4 trailers for this big franchise, and here's a 1 or 2 line brief of what they're looking for, and this came from the music supervisor. And so I watch the previous trailers, and then I go a step further, and I don't know, other composers in the room, if this is, I always say I do this because I'm surprised how many people don't, but it's just it's the only way I can work to make sure that I'm going to hit the target. So I'll rip them from YouTube and I'll bring them into my project, and I'll score to picture, essentially. So I'll have the 4 or the 3 previous trailers from the reference in my DAW as I'm working, and I'll just switch in and out of them. I'm not necessarily, I say scoring to picture, I'm not doing it frame to frame, but I'm using it as inspiration, I'm using it for a vibe, I'm using it to help me with the pacing, with my sound selection, to make sure I'm really in the ballpark of what they're going for. And once I've done that, then what I'm doing is basically bettering what I've heard. I'm bettering it, and the last campaign was a year old, so things have moved on, trends have moved on, sounds have moved on. So I now take it as my responsibility to say, okay, how am I going to set the musical tone for this campaign in 2024? What does that sound like? And fortunately for me, this brief was very up my street. It wasn't a case of having to second guess. I was really able to go with my instinct because I had the picture, I had the brief, and I had my instinct. And when I have those three things, I'm pretty much good to go. I have no idea how many other pieces of music they're looking for, probably hundreds. I don't think about any of that. I don't think about anything outside of the fact that I'm there to do to say something, to actually say something unique with music, and I just found out I won that job. So, thank you. So, and when I found out, I couldn't believe it, because the thing I find hard to believe is the fact that someone on the other end understood my intention with the music. That's what I find so amazing, is that it's not a logical thing. I wasn't logically writing to the brief. I really wrote from the heart, and I was like, God, this is weird. This is out there. I don't think anyone's going to get it. But no, hold on, then I have to check. Is it hitting the brief? Yes. Is it in alignment with what they've done in the past? Yes. Okay, so I'm not going too far off here, but it still felt like I was being a bit edgy, but that for me is what's exciting creatively now. So, for that to work is honestly it's an amazing feeling.
We're going to open this up for Q&A. I think we got about, almost 20 minutes left, a little more than 15 minutes left. Before we do, we're going to go down the row. I've got one final question for all of you, and that is, if you could give everyone here one piece of advice to get the most out of the next 3 days, or I guess 2.5 officially, their time here, what would that piece of advice be?
I would say try to be as present as you can in the conversations you're having with every single person you're speaking with. Because there's a lot of noise, a lot of distraction. It's busy, it's exciting. But when you stop to have those conversations, just try to be present in that moment.
Wow, that's a tough question. I think be yourself and just get to know as many people as you can. And if you're a composer, maybe meet libraries that are seeking new music, and maybe meeting people, like asking, even if they do a different style of music, like say you're not a hip hop composer and you're talking to a hip hop library, I'm sure that they know other libraries. So maybe not, having a normal conversation with them, and then maybe seeing, finding your people. I mean, because we're all here, we all do different things. So find your tribe if you can, and just have a good time.
I'd say to the composers in the room, don't see yourself as a composer for the next 3 days. Just let that identity go, leave that for the studio, and just be a person. And if you want to even see yourself as a brand or a marketer or a CEO, all those other things just expand your mind a lot more than the person that sits in the studio making the music.
Yeah, definitely second that. I would say, don't forget to follow up. But listen to what people are saying, people are talking to you about from the stage or elsewhere, that lines up with you, with what you do best, with how you like to actually work through things. And with so much information that you get from the conference and from so many people around you, it's easy to basically think, oh, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, I can do that. Just basically try to identify the top 3 to 5 things that you are really the best at, and how to actually follow up with people and make sure that they remember you, that you speak from the heart, that you send good stuff that you feel good about, and that let this be part of your homework, essentially, for whatever is coming next.
My alarm went off to let me know that this is the time for the Q&A. One moment, please. Okay, 2:45. All right, who has a question? Josh, do we have a roaming microphone or... Oh, back there, awesome, okay. Raise your hand if you have a question. We have roaming microphones. There we go.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for all the beautiful insights about the music industry. I'm a composer. I have a question about the industry. Recently, I was in another panel with filmmakers, directors, composers, producers, and music supervisors. They were saying that when approaching to people to try to build the relationships with these people, if you're a composer trying to build a relationship with a music supervisor, a director that will hire you to do the music for their film, they were saying like it's hard when you're trying to reach to people that already have their teams, when they have been in the industry for a while, and even though they are in another level than you are, they already have people. So they were saying like it's also good to start with people that are also on your same level, so you can, because you are starting, if they are in the same moment in your career, then you guys can build together until you get where you want. So how would you go about that? Is it good for a composer to try to reach out to music supervisors? And if that, what is the best way to do it without being, trying just to get them because you want this, and just try to, put yourself out there as well?
Jody, that's actually a great question for you, because you have a statistic on music supervisors that I think is worth sharing.
Yeah, 99%. Is it 95 or 99?
I thought the stat was like 500,000.
Okay. Yeah, that stat. That's a different stat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a different stat. But
So there are this was like 3 years ago, there's probably more now.
Yeah.
There are over 500,000 labels, publishers, managers, songwriters, composers, artists reaching out to music supervisors all at once. Does anyone know how many music supervisors there are in the world? 8. Maybe 8 good ones. No, I'm just. Good guess. There are probably now, it was under 1,000. That was like 2-3 years ago. So to answer your question, is it good for a composer to submit to a music supervisor? I think a composer should spend their time submitting to a library or a sync agent, so the music supervisors can serve our clients, which are the directors and the producers, and work with trusted sources that represent you. I think that is going to be a better long-term play for composers. If you want a short-term win, a short-term placement, one placement, and you hound enough supervisors, you might get one. But if you want long-term, consistent placements, going through a library or finding a rep if you're an artist is the way to go, 100%.
awesome. Great question, great answer. Have any other questions? Back there, yes.
So since everybody's going to reach out and follow up in here, right, when you meet your people, can you give some type of advice to how to compose that email and how to sound authentic within that email, because everybody's going to follow up with people they meet here?
I would like to give you that answer, and then you all can do this. But I think you can say everything you need to say in 5 sentences or less. And I have a system that I've utilized throughout my entire career, so there's never any guesswork. The first sentence is always finding some common ground. It could be listening to a podcast they were on. It could be recognizing them for an award that they, won from the Guild of Music Supervisors. It doesn't matter what it is. But that first sentence always should start with some common ground. People want to be recognized, even though they're supervisors, they still want to be recognized for their work. It could be as simple as, I saw that you went to, the Caribbean on your Instagram page, whatever it is, right? So it always starts with the common ground. Then I generally will lead into something that I know that they're looking for. And I think that it's been my experience that when I connect with someone, I don't connect with them blind. I know what they're looking for. I know what they're working on. I have familiarity with their needs. If I can't fit their needs, then there's no point in making that connection at that time. So then it will lead into, this is what I have. It's in relation to what they need. The third sentence I will always add is my ownership. I control the master and sync rights. I think that gets always a nice response, because that's the foundation of what we do. It's based on master and sync rights. Then let them know in the fourth sentence that I have alternate versions and stems. I've got full metadata, and then the fifth sentence will be like I've included a streamable link. And that's my process. It's always customized to the person, but it's 5 sentences. If there's 6 sentences, then I've failed. But that's the system. And I'd love to hear any thoughts that you guys have.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. I also like when people like talk about like what the conversation we had was about. Like Yes is the best band of all time. Yeah, totally.
Of course.
So yeah, so I always like, because then I'm like, oh yeah, that person, we had a great conversation about Yes, you know. So then it's all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I remember that person. But yeah, definitely non-expiring streaming links, because sometimes people get busy and it takes you a couple weeks to get back. That's just a fact of life, sadly, with all of us. But definitely, like, just the familiarity. Yeah, I like what you said too. It's like, you know, just the common ground thing is really good. But yeah, just like also like how, like, do your homework too. Kind of know like what that company or that person does, and make sure that you're sending stuff that's relevant to what they do, or what productions they're working on, or what their library is. But yeah, definitely. I mean, just keep it simple and personable, I think.
Awesome. Great question. Any other questions? Yes.
Hey everyone, Joshua Stevenson off Key Productions. I just had a quick question for all of you. What is the one best thing you can attribute your success in your individual field to, whether that be a trait or an action that you took or an aha moment? But what is just one thing you would say attributed to your success?
One thing you would attribute to your success.
Community.
Resilience.
Meditation.
That and just absolutely no downtime whatsoever. So just keep on going, and yeah, be available. And one big, I think, note to give on that question is listen. Make sure you listen. If you're not sure if you're hearing things right, listen again and again and again, and make sure you understand what is needed, what you are going for, what people are telling you. That's reading those signs along the path is super important.
Awesome. I think I saw a question up here. Did you have a question? Is someone up close had a question, I thought? No? Any other questions? Oh, I will come down and I'll give you the microphone.
Thanks. When I was younger, the tastemakers were disc jockeys on radio stations. That's how I found music that I liked. That's not true anymore. I now find music that I like on television shows. And I've learned that music supervisors are now the people that find the music I like. I wonder how music supervisors find the music that they like today.
Every which way possible. Whether it's the personal taste, the personal library, the stuff that people have sent a long time ago that I've kept handy for whatever reason, mostly because I liked it, and you know, I wanted it to find home in one of the projects that I'm working on, or something like that. Then also being in tune with what the projects are, what the time periods are. You know, if it's a time period piece of content, right? Often music supervisors would actually immerse themselves in that world and try to kind of relive the era, if you will. Then definitely just follow the current trends. And I'm not ashamed to say, you know, I'm definitely a hawkeye about social media and what people are putting out there. And you know, who's doing what, whether they're just individual artists or bands, or if it's labels that are pushing something, or if it's even, you know, I don't know, a young girl drummer somewhere out there that, You know, he's doing amazing things. Everything and anything that can possibly actually give me some sort of an information on which way to go. Because interpreting music and interpreting what people need for their projects is definitely, you know, half of the game.
Selena covered all the places. The one piece of advice I would just, if I could offer, is if you have your music up on your website, have contact info up there too. Because if you don't have contact info, we're on to the next. Because I use Google a lot to find music, and wherever it leads me, it leads me. You know, it could be SoundCloud, it could be Disco, it could be Spotify, it could be YouTube. But again, every project is different. So I'll give an example. There's a project I'm on now. This project called Ethan Bloom. Ethan Bloom, it's a feature film, shameless plug, that Michael and I are producing. Very excited about that. It's called Ethan Bloom. It should be hitting festivals soon. But the director, it takes place in Miami, and the director loves yacht rock. There's not a lot of yacht rock out there.
Who doesn't?
Right, who doesn't, right? There's not a lot of yacht rock out there nowadays. That's actually like an era of music, right? It captures like a time and a place, authentic yacht rock. So for that one, I reached out to Robbie Dupree, because I know Robbie personally. And we got, and Michael does as well. You grew up near Robbie.
I grew up right down the street from him.
Yeah. And Robbie's a real personable guy, and we got his song Steal Away in the film. So then there's a reprise at the end of the film of Steal Away, which we were going to use Robbie's version, but I had this idea that I pitched to the director. I reached out to some friends of mine. These are friends from Atlanta. I lived there 25 years ago, and I'm still in touch with them. They're called the Yacht Rock Review. Has anyone ever heard of these guys? Yacht Rock Review. They're freaking awesome. They cover yacht rock songs, and they do their own original yacht rock music. So they happen to have a new album coming out. This is perfect timing when I reached out. On that album, wouldn't you have it, there's a ukulele version of Steal Away with a female vocal on it. So at the end of the film, there's a slow dance between the two, the relationship, and we have that song reprised. So how do we find music? It's like whatever it takes to get the right song and the right project. And in that instance, it was from a long relationship I had with the band.
That was a great question. I think we have time for one more, and then we're going to be wrapping up. There we go.
You guys have in front of you a room of very talented people. Will you give us one of your briefs?
One of the briefs. You want me to read one of the briefs? Sure. I'll read one of the briefs that came in yesterday.
So one thing, for Ethan Bloom, we first reach out to our community of Sync Titans. A lot of them are here. They'll have buttons that say Sync Titans.
Sync Titans. Woo! Yeah.
So when I was on set in Miami, I was messaging Mike saying, hey, I'm on set. We're filming this hotel party scene. We posted the brief immediately. Our Sync Titans were able to submit, and we ended up getting the song in the film. So effective communication and transparency, that's partly why we're producers, is so we were able to have that access and be able to share the footage with our members. But yeah, you're going to read a brief?
Yeah, this one came in last night. $250,000 auto spot. Looking for driving, soul-stirring, forward-moving contemporary instrumentals that touch on both feelings of confidence and swagger. With rousing, expansive, imaginative elements. Explain that to me. It's awesome. Tracks should have a feeling of weight and grit. That's totally a car commercial. Along with vibrant textures, and can be anything from indie rock to modern orchestral to contemporary hybrids. That means that they don't have a clue yet what they're looking for. We're also open to lyrical ideas. Speak to dreams, possibilities, moving forward, triumph, victory, etc. Please include instrumentals if sending the main versions. They have 3 references. It's 1 30-second use with lifts and edits. Car commercial, yeah, one-year term, U.S. and its territories, including Puerto Rico. It's $250,000 all in.
When you listen to those references and read that in front of you, it makes a lot more sense. I mean, everything they said there,
Yeah.
all those words make a lot of sense while you're listening to the references.
So awesome, guys. It is 3 o'clock. Thank you guys for hanging out and joining our panel. Enjoy the next 2.5 days. Awesome job, Selena, Jake, Sarah, Jody. All right. Have a good rest of the day.